Reddit. Don't we love it? It has many uses, from people complaining about certain aspects in their respective subreddits to providing updates and information on others. It can be a very diverse place. For today's video, I created a thread on Reddit asking the community about any facts about Final Fantasy X, and I got quite a bit of responses, which is great. I will highlight 5 of these facts, and unlike the last one I made, this one will cover different parts of the game as opposed to the plot-focused edition I made in the previous video. If you want to place any posts you want me to cover, Final Fantasy X related or any other game, you can follow my Reddit and post there, or leave comments on any of the videos I create, or check out my Discord. I will sometimes post prompts that I would like the community input on and opinion for. Other than that, let us begin with the 5 interesting facts about Final Fantasy X Reddit edition. This first detail comes from Solid Snake. Auron is 35, but he died when he was 25, so even though he shouldn't age, he used the Fireflies to alter his appearance to make himself look 35. So one suspects that he is dead. Only Seymour figured it out since he is keen to descend to the far plane. Yes, I played this game too much. First of all, me too. I don't blame you there. However, I found this interesting because it actually made me question it even more. Yes, it's a known fact that Auron was dead for 10 years before the events of Final Fantasy X, and in a flashback, we see what he looked like at the age of 25 when he challenged Yuna to avenge the death of his friends. If he had the ability to manipulate Fireflies to alter his age, then that would be impressive. But it was never confirmed nor denied whether he had this ability, but it does make me wonder. Would he have a reason to do so? Well, yes, it was mostly to hide the fact from the party that he was an unsent. If he appeared to them looking like how he was 10 years ago, the party would then be suspicious to how he looked similar for 10 years. When we look at someone like Maester Micah, who's been Grand Maester for 50 years but secretly an unsent, he already looks old, not to mention he's the Grand Maester, so who's gonna question it? In the case for Velgamine, very little is known about her apart from her desire to train summoners on their way to defeating Sin, so it was also a shock when we discovered her status as an unsent. With Auron, since we know of his history and how tied he is to the storyline of the game, then it would create a bit more suspicion, so it is possible that he could have altered his image to make himself look older to maintain his status of being alive, making it a shock to the party when they discover that he is also already dead later in the story. Thanks for that detail, Solid Snake. That one really did make me think a little. This next detail comes from Funny Mathematician 77. The voice actor for Wakka is also Bender in Futurama. Now, to be fair, a lot of people submitted very similar phrases regarding this, so let's give some love to the voice actors and actresses. I think because of how easily they can be overlooked considering we don't ever see them in the screens, we often have to do a little digging on their work to discover other media they have done. Going to the voice actor for Wakka, we are looking at John DiMaggio. When I looked deeper into his voice acting work, I was surprised how many shows he was involved in that I watched as a kid, which makes me disappointed that I never paid close attention to these voice actors. Apart from Wakka, he also voices Kimahri, which I can see considering Kimahri barely talks, so it's a good little side gig within the same gig. Of course, he voiced Bender in Futurama, but I was also surprised that he voiced Dr. Draken in Kim Possible, which, now that I think about it, picturing Draken's voice and Wakka's, having that difference in character personification done by the same person is quite impressive, let alone the voice changes themselves. He also voices Miguelo, the blue Sikh that runs the shop in Rabanastre and is Vaughn and Penello's initial employer before they decide to go and save the world, as well as Gilgamesh, one of the game's post-story bosses and famous sword collector. Other works he's been involved in include Scooby-Doo, Johnny Bravo, Codename Kids Next Door, Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, Gears of War, Guild Wars 2, Halo, and the like. Damn, he's done a lot. I respect it though. This next one we go to BK_FrySauce, who actually submitted a few details, so I really appreciate that. Seymour's mother pushes for Seymour to be a summoner, knowing what will happen to him if he summons the Final Aeon. Anima is a Final Aeon, but Seymour never fought Sin, so Yu Yevon never possessed her. That is why Anima is so absurdly powerful. This one might be an easily overlooked fact because of how we perceive the Final Aeon being one that becomes the core of Sin due to Yu Yevon absorbing it. But based on how Anima was born, she technically is a Final Aeon. Here's the thing. The Final Aeon is more powerful than any of the Aeons you obtain in the temples because it connects the bond between the summoner and the chosen guardian. And the ritual is done by Yuna and herself. In the case of Seymour and his mother, they already share that bond to begin with and don't require the journey of the pilgrimage to build it, so she would have been able to become Anima through Yuna. However, since Seymour never used her to battle Sin, Yu Yevon would have never had the chance to absorb her, thus her never becoming Sin's core, and instead just one of the most powerful Aeons in the game. I think it would have been interesting if Anima was indeed the strongest of all the available Aeons in the game, but the Magus sisters are pretty cool themselves. We will be following up on the previous detail with this one, also submitted by BK_FrySauce. The game goes to great lengths to show parents can influence their children. Tidus's parents, Yuna's parents, and Seymour's parents all had profound effects on who their children would become. They all end up following in their father's footsteps. Something this game does really well is cover the theme of parental influence in relationships. When we look at these three characters in the game, there are qualities that they inherit from them that eventually determine their paths in the game. Tidus, despite his hatred for his old man, trains to become a great blitzball player as he was. But instead of doing so in arrogance like Jet did, Tidus is more humble and acknowledges the fans' admiration of him instead of boasting about it. Yuna, like Braska before her, was a summoner who journeyed to defeat Sin. Unfortunately, he fell victim to the cycle of death as Jet became the core of Sin in the game. Yuna's outcome was more permanent as her unorthodox journey led her party to discovering Sin's weakness in order to get rid of it for good, bringing the eternal calm to Spira. Seymour's father was also a maester just like he was. While Jiskel worked hard to integrate Guado culture into Yevon society, Seymour sought its total destruction through gaining influence as a maester into eventually becoming Sin itself through joining Yuna, although he is ultimately stopped in his plans of doing so. I think it's really fascinating how emphasized this connection was that it really hit me in the story when I was playing it through, making it a really well-made story and game. Honestly, there are much more themes we can discover and explore that are utilized really well to use this story, and this is just one of them. This last fact comes from Keymaster26. Yuna has two different eye colors. Now, I know what you're thinking, we kind of already know this? Well, it depends. This one requires more visual affinity instead of a detail being pointed out, as no one at any point in the game talks about Yuna having two different colors. So if you're not as observant, especially when you're younger, which I wasn't when I first started playing, it's something that can be easily missed. But if I were to go a little further into it, Yuna is one of the very few characters in Final Fantasy, let alone Final Fantasy X, to be of mixed heritage. This is interesting because in a game that features different races and cultures, it is easy to single off someone of mixed heritage because of possible tensions between such races, which can be said for Yuna, who is half Yevonite and half Albed, with her father being a Yevonite and her mother being an Albed. I think the irony that the eternal calm and that permanent defeat of Sin comes from her and shows that despite her mixed heritage, she can do great things. The same can also be said of Seymour in the game, who is also of mixed heritage and was able to reach the title of Maester at such a young age, despite the methods he used to get there. But I digress. And those are 5 interesting facts that are covered in game, and honestly, there are many more that we can explore like this and other games as well. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content. Also leave in the comment section below what interesting facts you may have about this game that you'd like to share. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and that, as they say, is that.